Hello guys, this is me here. Basically, I don't know if I did a previous video on one of these figures here. For some reason it came out quite long, that video, even though I didn't meant to, but now we're gonna get the next one after Brocken, who is a Choju, came out. We have another Choju to review, and he's actually very, very well known and infamous. It's another Choju from the Ultraman Ace series, known as Vakashim. And like I said, he's also a Choju. So basically, he was another monster that was made from Yapul. He wasn't explained too much of what he was made out of, but I did find out that he was a mix between a caterpillar and a space monster. How cool is that? Because caterpillars are one of my favorite creatures of all time, so that's quite cool that we have a caterpillar but as a Choju. So yeah, and like I said, he's actually infamous because of his wacky design. However, I kind of think that this one here was actually a lot wackier because of his design, but he's only wacky because of his Stay Puft marshmallow looking suit, which looks like a caterpillar, so I'm not surprised. He appeared in Ultraman Ace in episode 3. I forgot to mention, this monster was actually an early monster, so he was in episode 6, but this one here appeared in episode 3. He didn't appear again until in one of the newer Ultramans, where he attacked other Ultras, and then eventually he fought Gamora, but it was the red version of him called alliexpress. But we'll get into that later. So the figure is actually from AliExpress. This particular variant with this long tail and this very tall design is actually only exclusive to AliExpress. I'm gonna actually cut the tag off though, so that because it's quite annoying. I'm gonna basically cut the tag off. I'm gonna be back. Sorry guys, I decided to change the, I decided to go somewhere else because there wasn't enough room. But yeah, so this figure, like I said, was from AliExpress, and I cut the tag off. Here's the tag. It's a little bit damaged, but it looks good though. He is 65 meters tall, and he is 80,000 tons. So that's interesting. I don't know about the tons part, but I do know that he is 65 meters, which is accurate. And that's Vakashim. It's kind of a cool anime sort of look with Ultraman Ace. And in the back, just like with the Brocken one, it actually shows the Showa pictures. Here he is. And you can actually see that this one has a longer tail. So I believe this one is based on the Showa one, which I don't mind. And I actually like it more because I know that the Showa one is supposed to have a long tail, not a short tail. But yeah, there's his head. It's pretty cool. Nice tag. But anyways, let's get on to the figure itself. So yeah, so this figure is quite nice, and he's actually one of my favorite monsters, just like with Brocken. He, like I said, has a wacky design, and he's actually quite nice for a figure, and considering that he might be a knockoff of like the 500 one or the other ones, he doesn't look bad though for like a copy, or if they were trying to, you know, replicate a Vakashim on their own, because in my opinion it looks quite nice. And I actually like how his tail is quite long, which is how it's supposed to be. I don't like how in the new ones they made it short, which doesn't even look like a tail. But anyways, yeah, that's the looks. For articulation, he actually has 6, which I'm very impressed, but he does have 6. His arms can rotate 360 degrees, but you have to like pull them to do it. Same for this one. So you can like have it in all sorts of positions. You can do the part where he poses them to shoot out fire or missiles. His head can also rotate 360 degrees. That's quite nice because his head sometimes moves around, and I like that. I like how they gave it that point there. If they did it at the neck, it would have looked ugly. His legs could also rotate 360 degrees, but it's quite hard though, which means that if you want them, you have to rotate it, like, you have to like pull the legs in a way that they can go all the way, because it collides with the arms, unfortunately, and the body. Now, for some reason, because of how he is, and it's not because of how he's, I mean, he does stand up, like, with his tail up like this, although I kind of like it when it's down like that, but he isn't supposed to have it like this, but because of how he's back heavy, it doesn't really stand up correctly, or just because of how back heavy he is. Like, I have to, like, somehow do it in... Okay, there he is. Now he stands. See? But most of the time, he's always gonna tip over like this. But that's okay. I mean, sometimes in the new ones, he's always like this, where he's, like, down. I mean, because in my opinion, parts of this become smaller and becomes a tail, so, yeah. But because of his legs, he can't do that much walking. So you're just gonna have to, like... I'll show you. You're just gonna have to, like, do this to where he can't walk. He's just gonna do this. But it doesn't look bad. I mean, I've seen figures that are worse than this, so... Yeah. I don't know why, but he's quite hard, though. It's like I have to use 2 hands to squeeze him. But it's like quite hard to squeeze, but he is kind of soft, so yeah, he's kind of a soft vinyl, but I think it kind of hardened. Now, another one that I don't know if all of them had, but most of them had a hard time moving, was that because his tail was disconnected and I had to attach it, and same thing with the head, his tail joint is slightly different because the tail is quite different. So it actually rotates a lot smoother, because usually with the other one, it was like the same, like the ring was like the same shape as the oval thing. But on this one, it was basically a circle, so because of this, it rotates easier. Which, I don't really know what the purpose of it is, other than to just make it wobble, like you can make it like this or something, but it's just best you keep his tail like that. But it does rotate, so that's kind of a nice feature, in my opinion. But anyways, yeah, that's Vakashim. He's quite nice. That's the articulation, so there's 6 points, which is quite, decent, and I don't mind. But now we're gonna get into the details, okay, for the details, I mean, since he's more simplistic than all the other ones, he's not going to have too much, although I do like how he gave himself a rubbery look and that there's, like, battle damage or whatever, which is quite nice. His eyes are painted blue, which is accurate. His horn is painted with a nice silver, which gives him a sharp look. I like how his beak is, like, with the 2 holes, which actually shoot out missiles. And I forgot to mention that this actually shoots out a missile as well. It's a unicorn or guided missile. I actually really like how the mouth is a separate piece, and because of it, you can, like, open and close it by just squeezing it. His horns are, this piece here is quite detailed. I like how it's, like, textured. For some reason, it says that he's a single horn monster, but he has more than just 1 horn, so it doesn't make sense. I'm not so sure which one they mean, but it's okay. And this area here, which could be like his thorax or like his brain thing, whatever, is nicely painted, and it has details that make him look like a crystal. And yeah, his feet look good. His hands look quite nice. I kind of actually like this on the 500 one. The 500 one doesn't look good. Or the 2006 Bandai one. I don't like them. I like this one more, even though it was a knockoff. But anyways, yeah. So he does have some nice detail, and since this is a Showa one, I like how his tail is long. With the other ones, they always had a short tail and it just looked kind of ugly, but I like this one more. So, yeah, so the details on this is fantastic. Now let's get on to the scaling. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do a scale on is actually about houses and vehicles. Let's compare them to like a bus first. Scaling on a bus is actually quite perfect. Although I do think he should be a little bit bigger, but this doesn't look bad. So for Micro Machines, it's perfect. What about for, I have this 747, which was actually, well, this one here is an Air Canada, but he did destroy a Japan airline one. But it was a 747, so, yeah. Yeah, the size is perfect. That's good. So, with some airplanes, they do go well, although there are some larger ones that look kind of ugly. For other, let me see. For other trucks, or, you know, airplanes, they do look good with it. Yeah, they look good, actually. So that's nice to hear. I mean, if you want, you could do like a battle thing, if you want to. I want to do this quick so that the video doesn't go long. This also, here's a bridge, which is actually from one of the destruction sets, which it destroyed. This is perfect because he can actually, you know, it's perfect size, although I do think he's probably the same size, or whatever. That's okay. What about a fire station or a firehouse? It's perfect. Gas station, perfect. A police department, perfect as well. He goes well with some of those buildings. I have this one, which I don't know if he goes well with, but maybe it's okay. Is a city building, or a building that's like, I don't know, 2 buildings or whatever, like a city. Yeah, he doesn't look bad with this, although maybe he's probably a little bit bigger, but this looks good so far, so no complaints. It's perfect. So if you want to do a video of, like, let's say him destroying, and keep in mind, those buildings were actually from Driven, although those cars are like from various Micro Machines, so yeah. Sorry. Here is a train station. It looks good. The train station looks good. Actually is accurate, so that's perfect. Now let's compare them to some monsters, but first let's do it with heroes. How about Ultraman Jack? I'm not exactly sure. He looks a little bit bigger, but even then, I think this is an okay sizing, because he's one of those monsters where he's like so, I don't even know how to describe it, but the sizing with Ultraman Jack is perfect, even though he should be a little bit bigger, but this doesn't look bad. You know, so you could just, whatever. What about an Ultraman, like just the original? I don't know. I think he should be a lot bigger, but this doesn't look too bad, so I think it's perfect. It's not as bad as the Brocken figure, although with other monsters he will go good, like with Neronga. This is accurate, because Neronga's 40 meters and he is 65 meters. What about Red King, who has a wacky design? This is perfect. I do think he should be a little bit bigger, but this is alright, because in real life, he's actually 65 and he is 40 meters, Red King, so that's good. That the scaling is fine. What about Gomora? Heck yeah. Oh yeah, Gomora looks very good, who these two actually fought. However, this is like the regular version. But if you want a Showa version to fight a Showa Vakashim, this is perfect as well. I like how these figures are actually, yeah. How about Sadora? I don't remember the size of Sedora, but this doesn't look bad if he's like small. What about Godzilla? Well, if you're scaling him to a size that, you know, because he's 100, this is pretty good actually. Because in real life, the new Godzillas are actually supposed to be larger. They're like 100 meters tall. What about King Kong? King Kong is perfect. Although if you want a Showa one to fight him, it's gonna be different, but so far the scaling is okay. Pretty good actually. He's gonna get a very huge rating. How about the Rhedosaurus, who appeared in the 2000 Fathoms or whatever it was? Oh yeah, this is accurate. This is perfect. Although, I doubt the Rhedosaur will win because he's just a generic dinosaur, but kind of mutated. Because because he doesn't have powers, so, I mean, what do you expect? What about King Ghidorah, who has a wacky design? I don't know. I think King Ghidorah is like, I don't remember his size, but depending of which size you scale in him, because they vary in sizes, he actually looks good with fighting or teaming up. So, yeah, that looks good. How about Brocken, who is also another Choju? This is accurate. You may think that he's supposed to be bigger, but this is actually accurate because Brocken is 63 meters, but he is 65. So, the sizing is perfect. What about Tyrant, who is another monster that appeared many times, kind of like with Vakashim? This ain't too good. He's actually supposed to be bigger because he's 65, and I believe Tyrant is like 62 or something. So this is not really a good scaling, but if you want them to team up and, you know, you want to have those crazy monsters with like the crazy hands that aren't even fingers, it would be perfect. But anyway, yeah, that's the, those are the scaling so far. Now let's get on to the history real quick, because I wanted to save it for last. Okay, so just like with Brocken here, this foe here, even though there's like different monsters, he was also a mix between an animal as well. He was a mix between he was a combination of a space monster and a caterpillar. However, they call him a hornworm, but it's mostly just a caterpillar he was a mix of. He was one of those monsters, just like with Brocken, who had a thing with humans, or had some powers with humans, to where they, like, transform, or they possess them. Now, you'll be in shocked, but Yapul actually takes matters into his own hands, which meant that the Showa Vakashim was actually Yapul the entire time. After the incidents with Camella King and Velocron, he decided that he would become Vakashim. However, at first he was Vakashim, but then he transformed into a little boy who originally looked innocent, but then he killed one of his grandparents, I believe, who was like these elderly people. And when the TAC team find out about this, the kid was running, who I, remember, the kid is actually Yapul. He's not really possessed. However, it's like sometimes these monsters have like disguises with humans. But anyways, Vakashim, he even told only the elders that he was Vakashim and that he was the monster from the valley, and then he killed him with like a weird dart that shot out of the kid's mouth. But anyways, the kid eventually was revealed, and when he was revealed, or when he was leaked, he was like making this YMCA pose and just turned into, well, this thing here. And I don't know how, but Vakashim is like teleporting in different directions, to where he was like on the ground, and then when the other fighters are like on the jets, they see him cracking the sky like glass. So it's like he's like teleporting, which I just find strange. But that actually what makes Vakashim pretty cool though. But anyways, yeah, Vakashim, after the possessions or like the disguises, because he can take forms of like a human, kind of like he can disguise as a human, and he disguised as a boy. But this was because at the time he was basically a form of Yapul. What happened was Yapul decided to take matters into his own hands. But anyways, yeah. So he basically was causing trouble after that incident when they found out. And, you know, like with other monsters, he was defeated by Ultraman Ace. They had a pretty good fight. I like how there was a part where he made this barrier where he was trying to fire it, but it couldn't work. And then he launched his horn thing, and when it was blasted, he used Ultraman had this flash thing to where it just did this to where he just couldn't move. And then he used the guillotine and sliced his head off. And that was it. And, you know, and what I find shocking was that before Vakashim had existed, it was already told that the kid was already dead. So what happened was the kid was already dead, but Yapul somehow made the kid alive. But that's because he possessed him in a way that he was inside of the body. Because Yapul is kind of like a devil, which I think he is. But anyways, yeah, that's Vakashim. That was like the Showa series. He appeared in many different shows. He appeared in a show with Gomora in Ultra Galaxy Neo, and it was quite a good fight. However, the only problem though was that because Gomora is a kaiju and he's a choju, he was obviously going to defeat Gomora, but eventually Gomora used the Rayonics burst, which made him more powerful, just as powerful as he is, which made him into red. He eventually got defeated with this thing to where he stabs him with his horn and then just lifted him up, and then he exploded and died. So, yeah. So, yeah, he basically was like, yeah. So that was after that, and then I would imagine in other shows he appeared. I'm not going to mention some of the other appearances or histories because I don't know too much about them. I just know the one with Gamora and him fighting, and the Showa series one. So that's all I know. I could mention the others, but it's just going to take too long, so I decided, you know, just forget about it. But what I do have to mention is that it's like, what's with some of the creatures that are chojus? Like, what's with some of the chojus having a thing with humans or have something in common with humans? It's like some of them possess humans, some of them take disguises as humans. There's actually a creature that looks similar to him but has like these things here, and his name is Coax or Cocus. He does look like a chicken though, not like this, but he has like these two beaks. He was also taking disguise as a child as well. So it's like, you know, this one here possessed a human who was a guy, like a man. This one pretended to be a child, but that was because the only reason why he pretended to be a child and eventually got his own individual monster thing was because in the Showa one, it was actually a form of Yapul because they couldn't do the special effects. So because of this, and at the time, it was actually a form of Yapul, which meant that Yapul was basically hiding inside of the monster suit, or whatever. But it's like kind of interesting how these, and like I said, it's interesting how these chojus have like this, like, it's like they have something in common with humans, even if some of them were like made from animals. Some of them like possess people, some of them take forms of them or disguise as them, like they use what I call human disguises and stuff like that. It's just kind of strange. But overall, they do look cool as monsters, and they're just because they're not your ordinary monsters. These monsters sometimes shoot out stuff like missiles, strong laser beams, and fires that are more industrial. Like, they are not your ordinary fires. They're almost like flame, like a flame blower or whatever those are. So, yeah. Now, that was the history of him. He appeared in the Showa series, and then he had made many appearances in other shows as well. Now, as far as Vakashim, I would absolutely give him a 10 out of 10. Because, one, now, even though he's a knockoff, or kind of, he does have a simplistic look, which means that they didn't have to do too many details. But I like how it's detailed and stuff. Articulation is fantastic. The scaling is perfect. Maybe not with other figures, but most of the figures did well with him. So I pretty much give this figure a 10 out of 10. I do have to tell you that this particular variant with the long tail and like the 6-inch sort of size is only exclusive in AliExpress. And actually, I actually prefer this, like, if you're ordering it from AliExpress, make sure it has the long tail. The short one, like, there's one that looks the same as this, except it doesn't have a movable head. It looks more like the 500 one. And the tail is quite short, and it's actually about this size. It's not as big as this. So, for Vakashim fans, or if people want to have a larger Vakashim, but they can't get the, but they cannot get the Bandai 2006 one, I would recommend this one here. So yeah, so his, the rating, it's a 10 out of 10, and I really like it. He's, like I said, one of my favorite Chojus and one of my favorite monsters. And if you think he looks good with those monsters that have, like, the crazy hands like Tyrant, Gigan, Megalon, or other monsters that just have the wacky hands that aren't even fingers, go ahead and pick him up. In my opinion, he's quite a pretty creative, like, not, like, he has a, interesting design, but he just looks fantastic. Not just by himself, but, like, with other figures. So if you want to have a Showa version, or you want to have, just Vakashim himself, no matter what, but you don't want to get the one with the short tail, or you just don't want to, because you can't get it, go ahead and pick him up. So, there you go. I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.